Avoid this mistake if you want strong, meaningful relationships. We've all been there, those small, seemingly insignificant moments that stick with us long after they've passed. A joke that felt just a little too sharp, a compliment that didn't quite land, or a moment when you were left out and didn't understand why. These aren't just random occurrences, they're signs of something deeper. If you want relationships that truly matter, whether with friends, family, or your partner, you need to recognize the subtle behaviors that chip away at trust and connection. From humor that cuts to priorities that shift, these aren't just little things. They're the silent barriers standing in the way of the bonds you're trying to build. In this video, we'll dive deep into these subtle yet powerful moments, uncovering the hidden impact they have on your relationships. You might even see yourself in some of these stories. But don't worry, this isn't about blame. It's about understanding, growth, and taking back control of your connections. Let's get started. Number 1. Jokes that cut deep, when humor masks disrespect. Imagine sitting at a gathering of friends, laughter bubbling through the room. Someone cracks a joke at your expense, and for a moment, you laugh along, not wanting to spoil the mood. After all, it's just humor, right? But then, a nagging thought takes hold. Why did it sting? That sinking feeling creeps in as you realize the laughter wasn't with you. It was at you. Humor is one of life's greatest joys, connecting people across cultures and age groups. A well-timed joke can lighten the mood, diffuse tension, and bring smiles even in tough times. But when jokes consistently come at the cost of someone's dignity, they lose their charm and become a mask for disrespect. Take a moment and think back to your school days or early jobs. Was there ever a time when someone teased you about how you dressed, spoke, or maybe even your dreams? They probably said, "I'm just kidding," afterward, leaving you unsure whether to laugh it off or confront them. It's moments like these that linger, leaving us questioning the thin line between playful teasing and harmful ridicule. This kind of humor might seem harmless to the person delivering it, but for the recipient, it's often a different story. These jokes can open old wounds or highlight insecurities. And the worst part? The audience laughs along, amplifying the feeling of isolation. It's a subtle form of exclusion that's easy to overlook, but its impact runs deep. Now, let's dive into the psychology behind this. Why do people use humor to hurt? Sometimes it's insecurity, a way to shift focus away from their own flaws. Other times, it's power dynamics. A person who feels superior often cloaks their critique in humor, making it harder to call out. And for those on the receiving end, the confusion lies in the duality. Should I laugh or should I feel hurt? Think about a family dinner or a reunion with old friends. Have you ever noticed how certain people become the consistent butt of jokes? Maybe it's the cousin who's always late, the friend who's clumsy, or the colleague who's still single. Over time, these remarks pile up, creating an emotional distance even when everyone seems to be laughing. And here's the curiosity. Why do so many of us let it slide? Is it because we don't want to be the killjoy, or because we've convinced ourselves that humor has no boundaries? But deep down, haven't we all wished for someone to speak up, or at least shift the conversation to something uplifting? Number 2. Compliments or insults? The sting of backhanded praise. You're pretty smart for someone who didn't go to college. You look amazing for your age. At first glance, these statements sound like compliments. But listen again. There's an edge, a subtle undercurrent of judgment that leaves you questioning whether to smile or feel offended. Compliments have the power to brighten someone's day, to make them feel seen and valued. Yet, when praise comes with conditions or comparisons, its warmth fades. Backhanded compliments are an art form of their own. phrased to sound kind, but layered with hidden critiques that strike at the core of our self-esteem. Let's rewind to a moment in your life when you achieved something significant. Maybe you landed a new job, got a promotion, or aced an exam. Now imagine someone saying, "Wow, I didn't expect that from you." That fleeting joy you felt, gone in an instant, replaced by doubt. Did they think I wasn't capable? These remarks often hit hardest because they exploit insecurities we may not even realize we have. They remind us of the judgments society imposes: age, appearance, background, or achievements. And they're so subtle that calling them out feels like overreacting. How do you explain "this hurt me" when the words themselves seem positive? There's something almost nostalgic about this phenomenon. Think about childhood memories, getting a drawing graded by a teacher or showing a project to a parent. Sometimes praise would come with that little nudge. "Great job, but next time, try not to make it so messy." It's meant to encourage, but it teaches us early on that praise often has a catch. And here's a curious thought. Do people give backhanded compliments intentionally, or are they unaware? Is it a cultural habit, a societal norm, or a reflection of their own insecurities? The truth is, most of us have probably been guilty of giving these without realizing the impact. When we hear a backhanded compliment, it can stay with us, replaying in our minds as we wonder if there's any truth to the hidden critique. It's a reminder that words, no matter how casually spoken, carry weight. Number 3. The pain of being left out. Subtle social exclusion. Picture this. A group of your friends is talking about an upcoming event, one you weren't invited to. You stand there, trying to mask your surprise and disappointment, pretending the conversation doesn't sting. Your mind races, searching for reasons. Was it an oversight, or were you intentionally excluded? Social exclusion is one of the most painful experiences humans can endure. It taps into our primal fear of being left behind, of losing connection with the tribe. From playground cliques to workplace dynamics, the feeling of being left out transcends age, gender, and culture. Think about your teenage years, a time of parties, study groups, and whispered plans. Was there ever a moment when you discovered an event you weren't invited to? Maybe you brushed it off, telling yourself it didn't matter. But later, lying awake at night, the questions crept in. What did I do wrong? Why didn't they want me there? As adults, the scenarios change, but the feelings don't. Whether it's colleagues grabbing lunch without you or a family gathering that you only hear about afterward, the pain of exclusion lingers. The worst part, sometimes it's not even intentional. People forget or assume you wouldn't be interested, or simply make decisions without considering the ripple effects. There's a deep relatability here because we've all been on both sides, excluded at times, but also unintentionally excluding others. It's the nature of human relationships, flawed, messy, and often unspoken. Yet the sting of being left out cuts deeper because it's rarely addressed openly. Why does it hurt so much? It's not just about missing the event itself, it's the message behind it. You're not important enough to be included. This taps into insecurities that many of us carry silently. Even as we tell ourselves it doesn't matter, there's a part of us that longs for validation, for a seat at the table. Here's a curious aspect to ponder. In today's world of social media, exclusion has become more visible than ever. A quick scroll through Instagram or Facebook reveals gatherings, parties, and dinners that you weren't part of. It's not just a feeling anymore, it's a visual confirmation of being left out. The cycle of exclusion often leaves us wondering, how do we break it? Can we address it without seeming overly sensitive? And most importantly, how do we create a world where everyone feels valued? regardless of whether they're invited to the party. Number 4, always busy, just not for you. Recognizing misplaced priorities. Have you ever reached out to someone close, maybe a friend, a family member, or even a romantic partner, only to hear, "I'm just so busy right now"? At first it seems reasonable. Life is hectic and everyone juggles responsibilities. But then it happens again and again. You notice they're not too busy for others. A night out with friends, a weekend getaway, or even lengthy phone calls with someone else. That realization hits hard. You're not a priority. Life has always been busy, hasn't it? Work, chores, relationships, health. There's a constant need to balance. But here's the truth. People make time for what matters to them. It's not about having the time. It's about making it. When someone repeatedly tells you they're too busy, what they're really saying is, "You're not at the top of my list." Now think back. Maybe it was during your college years, or perhaps in the early days of your career. There was always that one friend or relative who seemed unreachable. You'd see their updates, new places, new people, new memories, and wonder why they didn't carve out time for you. The feeling of being left behind stings, doesn't it? But the nostalgia doesn't end there. Reflect on the flip side. Moments when you were the one saying, "I'm busy." Maybe it was unintentional. Maybe you genuinely had a packed schedule. But deep down, there's a part of you that knows the people who truly matter always find ways to stay connected. This phenomenon isn't limited to personal relationships. Even in professional settings, the pattern emerges. A boss who's always too busy to discuss your concerns, a mentor who never replies to your emails. These moments make you question your value. The lack of attention feels like a quiet dismissal, as if they're saying, "You're not worth my time." Curiosity strikes when you begin to wonder, is it deliberate? Do people actively choose to deprioritize certain relationships, or is it simply a matter of oversight? And how do we navigate these dynamics without coming across as needy or demanding? There's a delicate balance between respecting someone's space and asserting your own worth. The unspoken reality is that misplaced priorities often lead to fractured connections. Relationships require nurturing, and without time or attention, even the strongest bonds can fade. It leaves us wondering, how do we make sure we don't fall into this trap ourselves? Number 5. The silent statement. Avoiding physical contact. Imagine walking into a room filled with acquaintances. You reach out for a handshake or lean in for a friendly hug, only to feel the other person stiffen or subtly pull away. It's not blatant rejection, but it's enough to make you pause, wondering what just happened. The absence of physical connection speaks volumes, even in its silence. Physical touch is one of the oldest forms of communication. A handshake can symbolize trust. A hug offers comfort, and even a pat on the back carries encouragement. When this element is absent, or worse, intentionally avoided, it leaves an unspoken message. "I'm not comfortable with you." Take a moment to reminisce. Maybe it was during a family gathering, where a distant relative dodged your embrace, or a friend who avoided even the most casual contact. These moments, though small, have a way of sticking in our minds. They make us question ourselves. Did I do something wrong? Are they upset with me? But the absence of touch doesn't always stem from conflict. Cultural differences, personal boundaries, or even past trauma can influence how people approach physical interaction. The challenge lies in deciphering whether the avoidance is about them or about you. What's fascinating is how universal yet personal physical touch can be. Think of the last time someone hugged you during a difficult moment. Didn't it feel like a lifeline, an unspoken reminder that you weren't alone? Now, contrast that with moments when that reassurance wasn't there, when someone kept their distance, leaving you to shoulder your emotions in isolation. In today's world, the significance of touch has evolved. Post-pandemic dynamics have reshaped how we approach physical interactions. Handshakes are less common, hugs feel more deliberate, and boundaries are clearer than ever. But even in this shift, the avoidance of contact still carries emotional weight, making us wonder, is this personal or just the new normal? Curiosity arises when we begin to question the unspoken rules. How do we navigate situations where touch is absent? Should we address it or simply respect the boundary? And how do we ensure our own actions don't inadvertently alienate those we care about? The subtle yet powerful message of avoiding physical contact lingers, leaving us to grapple with its implications, both for the connections we share and the boundaries we respect. Number 6. Absent in crisis, when support vanishes. Think about the hardest time in your life. Maybe it was the loss of a loved one, a health scare, a career setback, or a breakup. In those moments, you probably reached out to your closest circle, hoping for support. And while some people showed up, others, perhaps the ones you expected most, were conspicuously absent. There's nothing more revealing than a crisis. It strips away the pleasantries of everyday life, leaving only raw emotion. And in these moments, the absence of support feels like betrayal. A text left unanswered, a phone call ignored, or even a simple, "How are you?" that never comes. It all speaks louder than words. The pain isn't just about their absence. It's about what it represents. When someone disappears during your darkest hours, it makes you question everything: your relationship, your worth, and their intentions. The memories of shared laughter and good times suddenly feel hollow, overshadowed by their silence when you needed them most. This phenomenon isn't new. Think back to your younger years, perhaps a tough school project, a financial struggle, or a health issue. There was always that one friend or relative who seemed to vanish when things got hard, and while you told yourself, people are busy, the truth was harder to swallow. They simply didn't prioritize being there for you. The nostalgia of these moments is bittersweet because it reminds us of the ones who did show up. Maybe it was a friend who stayed on the phone for hours, or a co-worker who picked up your slack without being asked. These memories stand out because they're rare, shining examples of true connection. But here's the curious part. Why do some people disappear during a crisis? Is it fear, an inability to handle emotional situations? Is it selfishness, or simply ignorance of what you're going through? And how do we address these absences without creating further distance? It's a tough reality to face. Not everyone will show up for you, even when you'd show up for them in a heartbeat. Yet, these moments of absence also teach us something valuable about the importance of setting boundaries, managing expectations, and leaning on those who genuinely care. The silence in times of crisis often says more than words ever could. It forces us to reevaluate our relationships and decide who's worth holding on to and who's better left behind. Number 7. The gossip trap. Betrayal disguised as idle chatter. It starts innocently enough, a casual conversation, a few light-hearted comments, and suddenly someone's personal life is the centerpiece of the discussion. Gossip has a way of creeping in, often disguised as harmless banter. But for the person being talked about, it feels anything but harmless. It's a betrayal, a violation of trust that cuts deeper than most people realize. Think about the last time you shared something deeply personal. Maybe it was with a close friend, a sibling, or a trusted colleague. You opened up, hoping for understanding, maybe even advice. Then days or weeks later, you heard your words echoed back to you, not from the person you confided in, but from someone else. That sinking feeling, that rush of anger and disappointment, it's unforgettable. Gossip often masks itself as concern. "I just thought you should know," or "I'm only saying this because I care." But beneath the surface lies a different motivation. Gossip thrives on attention, drama, and the fleeting satisfaction of being in the know. It's rarely about genuine care, and often about wielding someone else's vulnerability as entertainment. Take a moment to look back. Maybe it was during high school, where rumors spread like wildfire in the hallways. Or perhaps it was in the workplace, where a private conversation with a coworker somehow became the topic of the day in the break room. These moments stick with us because they shake our faith in people. But gossip isn't just about betrayal, it's also about power. The person spreading it often feels a sense of control, while the one being talked about is left feeling powerless. And what's worse, sometimes the betrayal comes from the least expected places: a trusted friend, a supportive boss, or even a family member. Nostalgia kicks in when you recall times you may have been the gossiper. A joke at someone else's expense, a "did you hear about so-and-so?" whispered in confidence. Harmless, right? Until you're on the receiving end. That's when you realize how damaging a few words can be. But here's the curious part. Why do we gossip? Is it an inherent need to connect, even at someone else's cost? Or is it a reflection of insecurity, a way to deflect attention from our own flaws? And most importantly, how do we break the cycle without alienating ourselves from social circles? Gossip is a double-edged sword. It entertains while it wounds, connects while it isolates, and builds camaraderie while it destroys trust. Its allure is undeniable, but its impact is often devastating. In a world where words hold so much power, the choice to gossip or to listen to it becomes a test of character. It's a test we all face, and how we navigate it says more about us than we realize. And there you have it, those subtle yet powerful moments that can silently shape or break the connections we hold dear. These aren't just passing occurrences, they're opportunities to strengthen relationships or re-evaluate them. The key takeaway? Awareness is everything. Once you recognize these behaviors, you have the power to foster deeper trust, understanding, and love in your life. Drop a 100 in the comments if you've made it this far. You're part of the rare 0.01% who follow through and truly invest in themselves. If you're committed to making meaningful changes and building stronger connections, don't forget to join our community by subscribing. Let's grow together, one step, one story, and one meaningful moment at a time.